we sort of did an intro to it last year, but this year, let me see how many of you got bonitos yesterday. All right, all right. Any of you got T-shirts yesterday? Got more of them. All right, so more people would admit that they got T-shirts than burritos. That's all right. So Graduate Student Appreciation Week is really celebrated across the country every year around the first week in April. We've never done it at UCSF, and we decided that we would start the tradition now, and so we've made Grad Slam a part of that event, in large part, because we do value and treasure the work that our grad students do every day to make our school lives better, to make research. And we decided that we would start the tradition now, and so we've made Grad Slam a part of that event, in large part, because we do value and treasure the work that so can we hear 3 rounds of applause for our grad students? Start the tradition now, and so we've made Grad Slam a part of that, in large part, because all right, that's good. All right, now this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So all the grad students, can you just raise your hand again? All the grad students, just raise your hand. Come on, put them up. I need people to go over here. All right, so the rest of you who are not grad students, just look around. I just want you to walk and go high five one grad student, just one. Short walk, come on. There we go, there we go. All right, thank you very, very much. So today we have the honor of having our fearless leader with us. Chancellor Sam Hoggett is here, and we're going to ask the Chancellor to just come and bring you a few readings.
Thank you, Renee, and McKay, and thank you for this is the it's a real pleasure for me to be here. I've been the judge of these slams in the past, and I'll just say to the judges, particularly the new judges, you got a really tough time, and don't pay any attention to the audience's attempt to sway your judgment. You have to be completely independent and honest. As McKay said, this is a wonderful event that closes out the week of appreciation. I'll just underline that word, appreciation. Basic science, discovery science is, in my opinion, foundational. You have to be completely independent. Science would not occur at the quality that it occurs here if it wasn't for our graduate students. So we really do appreciate the work you do. I noticed about half of the room raised their hands a minute ago when we asked to say who were graduate students. So I'll speak briefly to the other half of the room who are here to show their appreciation and to support the work of the graduate students. So thank both the students who are here and those who are here to support them. And my guess is there are many more online, so thank you for being online and watching the event. To our 10 finalists, congratulations. I know the hard work you've done in preparing both the science, which hopefully was the fun work. The hard work was crafting your presentations, but congratulations on getting to this stage. I'm looking forward to hearing the amazing talks and work that you're going to describe. You've done the hard work, so I hope today is the fun part of it, and you just relax, particularly after you've given your talk, but preferably before you give your talk. Relax, have fun, and allow all the rest of us to just sit back and be thrilled by the quality of the work you're going to describe. So thank you all for being here, and you don't need to hear from me, you need to hear from our 10 finalists, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Chancellor Hoggett. So Grad Slam is first and foremost for the benefit of our PhD students. Is that better? For the benefit of our PhD students who spend an appreciable amount of time really learning how to communicate their science. They have the skills that they have acquired in preparing and practicing to give their talks today, and the poise that they will have gained from engaging in this challenging communication exercise will serve them well no matter where they go, but it will serve them well today and potentially in the system-wide Grad Slam final. So I want to just take a minute to acknowledge all of our finalists. They are, by all appearances, from all I've heard, amazing. So can you all just stand briefly for a moment, and let's just acknowledge all our finalists. Thank you all. Like the Chancellor said, you've done the hard work, and now you're just going to come up here and kill it. So we're looking forward to that. Grad Slam is for them because they learn to communicate their science, and they desire to communicate their science. But it's also for us because we learn about all the amazing research, or some of the amazing research, that is happening here at UCSF. They represent a cross-section of departments and areas at UCSF. And sometimes we tend to stay in our silos. I don't really want to call them silos, but I'll call them silos. Sometimes we tend to stay in our silos, and we don't really hear the breadth of the science that's going on here. So it's really great. This is my second Grad Slam, and I enjoy. This is for me the equivalent of a football game at an undergraduate campus. This is it right here. So thank you guys, and thank you for coming and for supporting your. Let me see the signs. There we go. We have a few of them. All right. Go Candice. All right. See the signs. So, it takes time and effort to do that, to come and to support your peers. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to a spectacular event. I am basically done. My job is done. The bulk of the work is going to go to the amazing Dr. Deanne Duncan. There you go. Sorry, Dan. Who is our Assistant Dean of Diversity and Learner Success in the Graduate Division. So I will happily turn it over to Deanne.
What's up? Are we getting hyped today? I saw a bunch of you in the barbecue in the hall, the quad, the hall. The quad, and I said, where's my hype crew? Where is the hype crew? Okay. I love the signs. I was going around looking at all the signs too. That's actually one of my favorite pieces. Yes, sleighs, yes, I love it. Okay, I'm gonna try to stay on script. I get excited, but I'm gonna try my best to stay on script. All right, so today, you will hear from 10 of our over 1,000 PhD students here at UCSF. PhD candidates entered the Grad Slam. So one thing I will say, this is me going off script, I may say Grand Slam. I'm hungry, I wanna go to Denny's. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best up here. Grad Slam contest by submitting their talks on video. And a group of screening judges comprised of faculty and staff and alums reviewed the videos to choose these 10 finalists. These students have been working very hard to make their talks as engaging as possible for you. Of course, the prize money at stake does not hurt. For the competition, the grand prize is $4,000. Right, that's deep rent money, right? The second prize is $2,000. You might have a roommate, that's still rent money, right? And the third place prize is $1,000. That's gas money, right? Plus, you, the audience, both in person and watching remotely, get to pick a winner. So everybody has a role to play today. You will decide the People's Choice Award, worth $750. That's a trip to Hawaii, right? Exactly. Depending. You will have a few minutes to cast your vote online once all of the finalists have given their presentations. More details on that to come later. The other way the in-person audience can participate today is the trivia contest. Between each speaker, I'll ask you all a question, and the live audience member who gets it correct will win a small prize. I know all of you are anxious about getting started and hearing the talks today. But before we get started with the presentations, I want to introduce all of you to our very impressive panel of judges. Please note that not all of our previously announced judges will be here with us today. Kishore Hari is unfortunately unable to join us today, We're very happy to have Abby Bookwalter joining us in his place on very short notice, so thank you, Abby. So judges, will you please stand as I introduce you? So first, Abby Bookwalter, Assistant Professor in Cardiovascular Research. Dan Lowenstein, who is the Robert B. and Eleanor R. Aird Professor of Neurology at UCSF. Dan is renowned for his work, his clinical work and research work in epilepsy. Dan has also served as the Executive Vice Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost from 2015 to 2022, and he has also served as a Grad Slam and Postdoc Slam judge on many occasions. So thank you for being here also, Dan. Next, we have Flory Marr, a 2015 graduate of the Biomedical Sciences PhD program. Flory is a global medical science director in medical affairs at Genentech and founder and president of Eureka Science. Elise Marson is a postdoctoral researcher in cellular molecular neurobiology, who is also the founder of the Improv at UCSF Group, and a first prize winner in the 2022 UCSF Postdoc Slam. And last and certainly not least, we have Carla Washington, who is a 1995 PhD alum in pharmaceutical chemistry. Carla is a clinical consultant and president of the UCSF Graduate Student Alumni Association. So welcome, judges, and thank you for your service today. So the judges will be looking for these basic qualities in the presentations. First, did the presentation help you understand the research? Second, was the topic and its significance communicated using language appropriate to an educated but non-specialist audience? And three, did the presentation make you want to know more about the research? Were you curious? Are you curious? Each talk will be timed, and any presentation that goes over 3 minutes will be disqualified. Yep, I said it. And by the way, our official timer is the UCSF registrar, Doug Carlson. Hey, Doug. Doug is also an official timer for Cal Sports Team, so we have an expert in the room. So, like I said, you're gonna get disqualified. Doug does not play. I work with him on a couple of things. He doesn't play. And finally, this is very important. Please silence your cell phones. We don't want anything to distract the students as they deliver their talks. So no talking, texting, flash photography during the student presentations. I know there's gonna be some giggling, so that's of course allowed. And I know so many of you are on Twitter, so who's gonna be live tweeting? Who's live tweeting? I know somebody is. Nobody wants to fess up? Okay, I know there'll be some live tweeting, so make sure you live tweet. All right, we're gonna get started shortly. So the finalists drew numbers to determine the order in which they will speak. Our first speaker is Sophia Goldberg. Sophia is a PhD candidate in the Biomedical Sciences PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Matthew Spitzer, and her talk is entitled, Cancer Can't Breathe or Grow Without No Air.
Tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. Can't live, can't breathe with no air. It's how I feel whenever you ain't there. It's no air, no air.
Life is all about balance. We all try to balance work, family, hobbies, and more daily. But today I want to talk to you about a balance you probably never think about in your immune system between rejection and tolerance. This balance is an incredibly complex process of give and take between the various players of our immune system, and also the key to keeping us healthy. Tip too far towards rejection and you get autoimmunity or allergies, but tip too far towards tolerance and you develop cancers. Specifically in the case of cancers, the balance has become skewed, so the immune system no longer recognizes mutated cells as disease and fails to eliminate them. The obvious solution to this is to restore the balance and help the immune system recognize the cancer as disease once again. But if it's this simple, why haven't we cured cancer? We haven't cured cancer because cancer is very good at disguising itself. And while great advancements have been made on therapies that enhance our immune systems, far too many patients still die of cancer. I, with the help of my collaborators, have spent the last several years studying how this healthy balance tips towards tolerance in cancers through the study of a gene called AIR, also known as the autoimmune regulator gene. AIR is known to teach the immune system to tolerate and recognize healthy cells. This is incredibly important to establishing immune balance. But I asked the question of whether immune cells expressing AIR might inadvertently teach the immune system to tolerate cancer, which, as I previously mentioned, is very good at disguising itself. At first, it wasn't even known that immune cells in a tumor could express AIR. However, I recently discovered not only can they express AIR, but that when I eliminate these AIR-expressing immune cells, I can promote tumor rejection in mouse models of cancer. For our team, this was an incredibly exciting result because it means that we found a way to boost the immune system and help it recognize the cancer as disease once again. In order to look at these cells more specifically, I wanted to understand why elimination of AIR-expressing immune cells is effective at slowing tumor growth. And it found that elimination of these cells allows the remaining immune cells to become less tolerant and more prone to rejection, enabling them to recognize the cancer as disease and kill it. Now knowing that AIR-expressing immune cells are helping to tip the balance towards tolerance to cancer, I want to further understand how immune cells take on this more tolerant role and to understand whether we can target these AIR-expressing immune cells specifically using therapies already approved by the FDA and other indications. I hope that our studies will be a breath of fresh air into the field of cancer therapeutics and allow us to continue to cure more patients of cancer every day. And that is the power of balance. Thank you.
That was our first one. Exactly. We're in for it tonight. That was wonderful. Thank you, Sophia. Now for our trivia contest. As the Chancellor noted at the January Town Hall, 2023 marks the 20th anniversary of research at Mission Bay. Exactly. Come on. I need you to respond to that. Therefore, all of our trivia questions have something to do with Mission Bay. For those of you who are watching our event remotely, this will be like watching Jeopardy. And I love actually watching my Jeopardy with my grandmother. She lives in New York, so I hope that you all enjoy this. However, in other words, we don't have any prizes for the folks that are online, so you are just really gonna be playing along. But we hope you'll have fun guessing the answers, just like I said. For our live audience, here's some instructions. Please raise your hand if you think you know the answer. And obviously, no Googling the answer on your phone. I know everybody in here's got a phone. No Googling. We don't have audience mics today, so Janet Alvila, our new Chief of Staff in the Graduate Division of Student Academic Affairs, will point to the first raised hand that she sees. And if it's you, say the answer loudly. And for those who are online, I'll try to repeat the answer so that you hear what is said in the room. If you get the answer right, we have a goodie bag for you. I want to thank Campus Life Services for generously donating our trivia bag, which includes a $20 fast pay card good at campus retailers. So you get money, just pure money every day. I love it. Once the question has been answered correctly, I will tell you some more fun facts in order to give our judges some time to evaluate the talk that they just heard. All right, trivia question number 1. Can you name both the first and most recent buildings opened on the Mission Bay Central campus? We might have to move on. That is correct. So UCSF broke ground on Mission Bay campus in 1999, and Genentech Hall was the first building to open in January 2023. The building houses dozens of research labs configured in neighborhoods with common areas that serve as hubs and gathering places, with the intention that this informal contact will lead an exchange of ideas that will ultimately inspire new ways of doing science. Professor Keith Yamamoto, UCSF's Vice Chancellor of Science, Policy, and Strategy, and one of our first researchers to relocate to Genentech Hall, told the San Francisco Chronicle in 2013, there was really nothing. There was no campus, just a building and a shuttle bus, and some ambitious plans. I love that quote. That's why I definitely had to share that. And then fast forward 18 years, and the Joan and Sanford I. Weill Neuroscience Building opened in 2021, adding a structure to border Core Quad on the east side. The building was designed as a collaborative hub for one of the world's largest and most comprehensive neuroscience centers, fostering connections among scientists, clinicians, and clinicians in neurology, neurosurgery, and psychiatry. I know, right? I actually haven't been in the new Weill building. I need to go. Who's taking me on a tour? Okay. Oh, I got a few hands. Okay, cool. Judges, how are we doing? Okay, we ready to move forward? All right, let's go. Now for our next speaker, Evelyn Hernandez. Evelyn is a PhD candidate in the Tetrad PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Roshanik Arajanad. Her talk is entitled Sending the Right Signal, How Cells Talk to and Interpret Each Other.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga. All we hear is...
The cells that make up our body talk to and communicate with each other, just like we talk and communicate with each other. If you wanted to talk to your friend sitting right next to you, you'd probably just turn to them and speak to them directly. Similar to how cells that are near each other can communicate by sending out local signals that can be directly sensed by neighboring cells. But if you wanted to talk to your friend that lived across the country, you'd probably have to pick up the phone and call them up to talk. In a similar way, cells that are far away can also talk to each other, such as your heart and brain cells in the fight or flight response, where your brain assesses a situation as scary or dangerous, and your cells communicate, resulting in your heart racing. One of the ways cells do this is through small particles that are made in our bodies that interact with proteins that exist on the surfaces of our cells named G-protein coupled receptors. These receptors work like tiny radio towers that stick out of our cells and sense these small particles in our bodies the way that radio towers receive radio waves. These tiny radio towers then transmit the external signal to the cell's interior, causing our bodies to produce a biological response. As the name of the receptor implies, G-protein coupled receptor, these receptors interact with or couple to other proteins that live inside the cell named G-proteins. These G-proteins act like radio tower technicians for our tiny radio towers, where they help fine-tune the signal so that the correct message is interpreted by the cell. I'm interested in the beta-1 adrenergic receptor, a G-protein coupled receptor that controls several heart functions, including the fight or flight response. Heart disease, one of the leading causes of death in the US, can be caused when the biological response from the beta-1 adrenergic receptor is activated too much over long periods of time. Using very powerful microscopes that visually track proteins that interact with one another, my research shows that unlike previously reported, the beta-1 adrenergic receptor can couple to two types of G proteins, one that amplifies the signal and can lead to disease when overactivated, but also to one that silences the signal. If we go back to the radio tower analogy, it's as if the G proteins are acting like rival radio tower technicians, where some are on a mission to help the tower send the message, but others are on a mission to destroy the message. Several drugs are already out on the market that block the beta-1 adrenergic receptor. However, simply blocking it stops it from interacting with both G proteins, creating a further imbalance in the cell. If we can instead figure out a way to target just the silencing pathway in disease settings, then we may be on the road to helping heart failure patients find the right balance. And my work is providing the foundation for these discoveries. Thank you.
Talk two. Outstanding once again. All right, we're moving on to our next trivia question. So the question is, call it correct quadruple? Besides dogs, what other four-legged creatures are known to occasionally visit the quad?
Is it llamas?
Yes, it is llamas. So some related facts about this trivia question. In a partnership between Campus Life Services, Wellness and Community, and the Graduate and Professional Student Association, llamas have come to Correct Quad, UCSF's mission-based central green space several times in recent years in an effort to promote wellness and community among students and staff. The llamas were here most recently in spring 2022 and are due to return in just a few weeks on May 3rd, so make sure you sign up so you can pet the llamas. Llamas are domesticated animals native to the Andes Mountains of South America. These particular mountains come from Sonora, a California-based llama circle of home, which brings therapy llamas to many schools, universities, nursing homes, and other institutions for the purpose of promoting human and animal connection and healing. Judges, how are we doing? We need a little bit more time. It's okay if we do. Okay. I want to say that the llamas make me a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. So I've gone out there with my team a couple of times, and I was scared. So I don't know. And I actually wanted to be a vet growing up, so that's kind of interesting, right? But I hope that you all go, because every time I do go out there, every time I see students and postdocs with cameras, taking selfies, smiling, and one of my favorite things is watching you all smile and seeing you all smile. So make sure you go see this. I know. Let's do hearts. Judges, are we okay? All right. Awesome. So our third speaker is Jason Davidson. Jason is a PhD candidate in pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacogenomics PhD program. His faculty advisor is Dr. Atul Butte. The title of his talk is Improving Health Equity Bit by Bit.
We gon' make it, we gon' make it, we gon' make it. We gon' make it, we gon' make it, we gon'.
I got a $50 gift card for entering this competition. With $50, I would rather buy 5 meals from McDonald's than to buy kale at Whole Foods. I know that many other students would too. 1 in 3 adults today are pre-diabetic, and diabetes is the most expensive chronic disease in the US. Treating diabetes isn't easy, especially for those with financial insecurity or coexisting diseases. Think for a moment. Who do you see and don't see shopping at Whole Foods? The socioeconomic gaps are here. Defining these gaps in healthcare might help reduce inequalities in care, but how? What if we could identify and target patients in San Francisco that need better care by using social determinants of health? These are the conditions in which people are born, work, and live that affect their health outcomes. With social determinants data, we can better understand a patient's overall health. But right now, social determinants are not widely used in health records to understand differences in healthcare, especially in diabetes. That's unacceptable. My goal is to change this. Here at UCSF, I'm leveraging an unprecedented data set of nearly 9 million patients. As a pioneer, I'm using patients' home location to better understand their housing, employment, education, and poverty status. To determine associations between social determinants and diabetes, I sifted through health records to select diabetes patients based on their treatment history. I stratified patients living in rich and poor neighborhoods with the goal to understand differences in outcomes and treatment patterns based solely on their location. I then built artificial intelligence models and found that patients from poor neighborhoods were prescribed cheaper, possibly less effective treatments. They also presented for care much later than patients from rich neighborhoods. But why such a disparity? And how do we fix it? I'm exploring these questions further by diving deeper into diabetes treatments, outcomes, and other conditions that affects patients' health. My work shows that we cannot ignore social determinants of health if we want equitable health care. I envision a day where we will use all this data to help improve health outcomes nationally, reducing more disparities in health than Whole Foods could ever imagine. Thank you.
Are we ready? This energy is a little low. Yeah, that was a wild interruption. I'm glad we're all safe. I'm glad they figured out whatever the issue was. And I wanted to also, the judges also wanted me to share that the hiccup is not going to impact Jason's score. So they've had a discussion with Jason, so he's all set. Okay? He did a miraculous job. So Jason, you kept your composure, so congratulations, because I wouldn't have been able to do it, so very well done. All right, let's get back on track. Our fourth speaker is Victoria Sayo Turner. Victoria is a PhD candidate in the neuroscience PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Mazen Karabek, and her talk is entitled, Be Bold, Little Mouse, Finding Courage in the Brain.
Fear and anxiety are not pleasant experiences. As a neuroscientist, I want to understand where in the brain fear and anxiety come from and how they are controlled. If we can understand how fear is controlled, we might develop better therapies for people with clinical anxiety. One thing we don't understand very well is how the brain overrides fear, how an individual goes from avoiding danger to facing it head on. In humans, we might call this courage. By studying mice, I'm able to look for the mouse version of courage. How do I do this? I start by recording the brains of the mice after I put them into a laboratory maze. Now, this maze is not the kind you can get lost in. It only has 4 arms in the shape of an X, but 2 of the arms are surrounded by tall enclosing walls that make the space within nice, dark, and cozy. Mice love it. And the other 2 arms are exposed ledges where a predator might swoop in at any moment and grab them. At the center is an intersection, and that's where the magic begins. For example, we've been able to record one brain area that acts like a fear thermometer. This brain area has very low activity in the safe zones, which starts to rise as the mice approach the intersection in the center, and gets even higher when the mice cross over into the risky zones. So we think we can record fear in this brain area, but I'm still looking for that signal of courage, because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in spite of fear. To do this, I've had to zero in on the moments when the mouse is facing a conflict between taking a risk and retreating to safety. The most important place where this happens is right back at the center, at that intersection. When the mouse is standing there, they are faced with a conflict between going into a risky arm or going into a safe arm. Take a risk or retreat. And when the mouse at that crossroads finally starts moving, now they're committing to either a risky arm or a safe arm. Take a risk or retreat. Now, I haven't yet found the signal for courage, but by zeroing in on these key moments, we may be the first to find out. Today, I've talked to you about how, by recording the brains of mice, we are mapping out the basis of fear and courage. But let me remind you why we're doing this. 1 in 3 Americans will experience an anxiety disorder in their lifetimes. By understanding not just fear, but how the brain overrides fear, we may be able to develop better therapies for those that need it most. Because at the end of the day, if there's one thing I've learned from my research, it's that we're not so different from a little mouse. When we come to a crossroads, we too can be bold. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. I will say that the way that you described your research felt very meditative to me. So, for real. So I just want to say that you have some really positive energy that I really love. So, okay, our trivia question number 4. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. Sorry. Mission Hall is home to UCSF's Institute for Global Health Sciences. I know the Global Health folks over here. I love it. The Global Health Sciences program was established in 2023 with this former UCSF chancellor as founding executive director. Yes. Hailey DeBoss. So Hailey DeBoss served as the founding executive director of the Global Health Sciences from 2023 to 2010. He is Professor Emeritus of Surgery and served as the Dean of the School of Medicine from 1993 to 2003, during which time he served as UCSF Chancellor in 1997 for an agreed-upon period of just 1 year. Can you imagine going in and be like, 1 year, that's it. Dr. DeBoss trained in Canada and came to UCSF in 1987. He was awarded the UCSF Medal in 2012, at which time a colleague called him a one-person transformer for global health in California at UCSF, in America, and around the world. That is a very powerful quote. Wow. Sorry, that just really hit me right there. Seriously, that's beautiful. You can see his name on the south gateway to the Mission Bay campus, just seen in this picture, just outside of Mission Hall, which opened in 2014 as the home for all faculty, staff, and students involved in the university's global health program. So that's great. That was a really touching trivia. Let's keep that one for future. I really like that. Judges, are we good? All right, let's move forward. Our next speaker is Deepa Rajan. Deepa is a PhD candidate in the Tetrad PhD program. Her faculty advisors are Dr. Wallace Marshall and Adam Frost, and her talk is entitled Learning Without a Brain.
At this point, I'd like all of you to close your eyes. Yes, close your eyes. And I want you to notice if you feel anything on your skin. The itch of fabric, the texture of cloth, the softness of your shirt. You can open your eyes now. You probably notice the feeling of your clothes on your skin when you put them on in the morning. But over the course of the day, you likely learn to ignore them because you have far more important things to focus on, like Grad Slam talks. But the thing is, you have 86 billion neurons to help you with this feat of learning, what you've just done is a form of learning called habituation. Habituation is a decrease in response after repeated stimulation. And in your case, the repeated stimulation was a rubbing of fabric against your skin. Now, you have a brain to help you, but I'm interested in how even a single cell is capable of the same type of learning without a brain. So now let me introduce the charismatic Stentor ceruleus. Stentor is a single-celled organism also capable of habituation. We can find them in local ponds, and I sometimes collect them from Golden Gate Park. Now, Stentor, when they get a tap in the pond, they contract from this extended state in the first image to a contracted state in the second image. This is an escape response from predators. However, when they get repeatedly tapped, such as from harmless ripples in the pond, they actually learn to ignore it, and they remain in their extended form. My research focuses on the following question: how does a cell even learn without a brain? To answer this question, I use a device we built in the lab to tap the cells over and over, probably much to their annoyance, and I analyze their contraction behaviors. What I found is that each cell undergoes a single stark switch from the naive state, in which they're mostly contracting, to a learned state in which they're mostly extended. Basically, a eureka moment for each single cell. I also explored the molecules involved in this process by treating these cells with drugs. And I found that Stentor might learn using proteins that are similar to human short-term memory. So by studying habituation at the level of a single cell, we can learn more about the origins of intelligence across different life forms. We can even get a more fundamental cellular understanding of human disorders of habituation, like OCD and ADHD. So the next time you put on your clothes in the morning and learn to ignore them over the course of the day, I hope you give a nod to Stentor for showing us you don't even need a brain to be smart. Thank you.
Very creative opening. I enjoyed that too. Meditative again. I'm digging this. Trivia question number 5. The Chase Center, home of the Golden State Warriors basketball team, is right across 3rd Street. How many NBA championships has the team won since, hold on now, moving to Mission Bay? Yes, 1. So some related facts about this trivia question. So the Warriors played their first game at the Chase Center in 2019 and won the NBA championship against the Celtics on June 16, 2022. Since their founding in Philadelphia in 1946, the Warriors have won a total of 7 championships, 6 NBA championships, and 1 Basketball Association of the American Championship in 1947. The team moved into San Francisco in 1964 and became the San Francisco Warriors, then became the Golden State Warriors upon relocating to Oakland in 1972, and then they returned back to San Francisco in 2019. Judges? Okay. We're going to keep on moving to our next speaker. So, our 6th speaker, Michelle Fatima Sedefun. She is a PhD candidate in the Tetrad PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Noel Etoile. The title of her talk is Memoirs of a Worm.
I remember this one time in high school, I slacked off of studying for a US history exam until the very last day. I figured I had no choice but to pull an all-nighter. How else was I going to memorize every major US event from 1754 to 2001? So I got my study snacks, notes all put together, sat down to study, and then just a few hours in, I fell asleep. I woke up just knowing that I was going to fail that exam. But then, to my utter surprise, I managed to pass. Did sleeping help my brain to convert all these dates and names tumbling around in my head into an organized long-term memory? You see, the purpose of sleep has fascinated scientists for centuries, understandably so, since we sleep for about 1/3 of our lives. We now know that sleeping is required for long-term memory formation. In fact, most people don't know that sleep disruptions are actually one of the first signs of Alzheimer's, a disease marked by progressive loss of memory. However, we don't actually know how sleep changes the brain to allow for memory formation. That's where I come in. I'm studying how neurons, or brain cells, communicate with each other during sleep to translate what we learn during the daily basis into something that we remember over the long term. Unfortunately, understanding how 170 billion neurons in the human brain communicate is a bit of a daunting task. But you know what's easier to comprehend? A worm brain. We use teeny tiny worms that have been genetically engineered to have glowing brains. Here's an example where each of these spots is an individual neuron that lights up when it receives a message from another neuron. Now, all of these worms only have 302 brain cells, but they're still capable of learning and maintaining a memory, as long as they're able to sleep after learning. This means that I can place these worms onto a microscope and watch as their neurons communicate their experiences live, in action. So what do we know now that we can see into the brain of the worm? Even though sleeping worms are inactive, their brains are not. In fact, not only do their neurons continue to communicate during sleep, but their brain activity actually shows differences depending upon whether those worms have learned or not. I was like, whoa, could we be actually seeing memories form live for the first time? Could these worms be dreaming? As I continue my work, I hope to elucidate how this exchange of information in a sleeping brain helps to cement memory. At the very least, I won't be making myself not sleep instead of studying. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima, and I love the humor in your talk. It's beautiful. Next trivia question. Everybody ready? Are we ready? Okay, I just want to make sure. Many major scientific awards are celebrated just outside this auditorium and Genentech atrium. Which one of these UCSF scientists was not toasted in this building upon news of their Nobel Prize win? Yes, Stanley Prusiner. So Stanley Prusiner received his Nobel Prize in 1997 before Genentech Hall existed. So some other related facts. No doubt, Dr. Prusiner was celebrated here at UCSF upon winning the Nobel Prize, but he won in 1997, years before this building existed. He was awarded the prize for his discovery and characterization of prions, an entirely new class of proteins which cause several rare and fatal neurodegenerative diseases. Elizabeth Blackburn received her Nobel Prize in 2009 for her discovery of the telomerase enzyme. And Julius was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2021 for his discovery into pain sensation. I'm going to keep going, judges. A couple more facts. Okay. Aside from celebrations of prestigious awards, the fifth-story light-filled Genentech atrium is the site of a wide range of events every year. The five-pendant chandelier sculpture in the atrium was created by artist Jim Emerson, who also designed the pattern carpet and selected the chairs for cohesive design. I'm learning some new things. This is fantastic. Great. We ready, judges? All right. We're moving on to our seventh speaker, Samya Bulam. Samya is a PhD candidate in the Biomedical Sciences PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Alan Balmain. Her talk is entitled An Extra Nudge in the Direction of Cancer.
Let me see you 1, 2 step. I love it when you 1, 2 step. Everybody 1, 2 step.
This beat is
outrageous, so contagious, make you crave it.
It would be amazing to know how a cancer begins. It seems like so many things these days have a may cause cancer label on them, but we don't really know why these exposures are associated with higher cancer incidences. The current model says that tumors begin growing because of typos in a cell's instruction manual, or its genes. We call these typos mutations, and we think that cancer is caused by mutations in the kinds of genes which tell a cell when to grow and how much to grow. But if this were the whole story, we would be able to find cancer just by looking for these mutations. You could look for a cancer-associated mutation on that spot that's hard to put sunscreen on, and you'd find the cancer before it became a problem, which sounds easy, right? Well, what we're starting to learn is that healthy cells can also sit around with the kinds of mutations that we think cause cancer. So what's up with that? This is telling us that while mutations may change the instruction manual, a cell may not actually become cancerous until it gets an extra nudge and is forced to follow those messed up instructions. In our lab, we use a mouse model of skin cancer that relies on this puzzling force. The dangerous mutations aren't enough until we apply a second chemical called a promoter, and this pushes the mutant cells to grow. In other words, I'm completely fine on the dangerous rock until a giant gust of wind comes through to knock me off. So I'm using this model to understand what the second chemical, the promoter, is doing, because I think it will help us understand how other parts of our environment may also push the mutant cells that exist in our bodies to become cancer. Now, an important feature of the promoter that we use, and probably of many other promoters, is that it only works if the force is constant. So this means that how the skin responds to a little nudge rather than a constant push may be different. That's why I collect samples over time so that I can look at which instructions the cells are actually following. Are they listening to the instructions of how to be skin cells? And when do they start to do something completely different? These measurements are showing me some fascinating biology of how promoters actually work with the mutant cells that are primed to grow. Eventually, I think we can make similar measurements for other agents in our environment that we think may cause cancer. Because if we can understand how these environmental exposures promote mutant cells to grow, it just might give us that extra nudge, one step closer to how a cancer begins. Thank you.
I like your picture, Samia. I do. This is really cool. Trivia question number 7. Before it was home to UCSF or to rail yards and shipbuilding, what was this area of San Francisco? No, I need something more specific. That's not what's written on the sheet. It was, you are correct, but that's not what's written on here. No. 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 Okay, so nobody's gonna get it? This one?
It does say Shallow Bay is acceptable.
Oh, okay. Hold on, I gotta go back. Who said Shallow Bay? Okay, you won. So you see what I'm talking about? This is what I was saying. It's like specific. Who did? Who did? When? Oh, just now? We need to give 2 prizes. Can we give 2 prizes? Okay, cool. Okay, good. Okay, thank you for your patience. I got my script, so okay. So for thousands of years, this area of what is now San Francisco was marshland and tidal lagoon, a cave of calm, protected water which provided lush habitat for a wide range of shellfish, marine life, and birds. The indigenous Ramaytush Ohlone village of Silantak was located on the edges of the lagoon. Mission Creek, just a portion of which is still existent a few blocks north of campus at Mission Creek Channel, flowed into the lagoon from its origin in what is now known as the Mission District. Learning more things. That's great. From 1860 to 1910, with the development and growth of the city of San Francisco, the waters of Mission Bay grew smaller and smaller as it was filled in as thousands of cubic yards of sand, rocks, dirt, and even debris from the 1906 earthquake. Wow. Okay. Judges. All right, let's move forward. On to our 8th speaker, Benjamin Wheeler. Benjamin is a PhD candidate in the Biomedical Sciences PhD program. His faculty advisor is Dr. Mark Ansel, and the title of his talk is Millet-1 is a spongy RNA that helps the immune system remember.
We're all familiar with grudges and the harm that they can do to our relationships. But we don't often think about the grudge that our immune system holds against every bacterial and viral infection that we've had in our life. An important component of these grudges come in the form of memory T cells. After an infection, these memory cells are formed and they patrol our bodies. That makes these cells a very important component of our health, and understanding the factors that regulate them has been a key question in the field of immunology. So far, most of this work has focused on genes that make proteins, which we call coding. However, there are many genes that do not make any protein at all and only make RNA, which we call non-coding. What's really exciting about my work is that we discovered how one of these non-coding genes, called MALAT1, acts like a sponge to regulate these important memory cells. Traditionally, these non-coding genes have been harder to study than their protein-coding cousins. So to address this problem, we turned to cutting-edge DNA editing technology to create a new mouse line. In this mouse line, we were able to edit MALAT1 specifically to remove its sponge function, but leave all its other functions and expression levels intact and untouched. We could then understand how these spongeless MALAT1 mice respond to bacteria or viral infections. When we infected these mice with a bacteria or virus, we found that the spongeless cells weren't activated as well and produced less immune stimulatory proteins that helped to destroy the invader. Further, after the infection was resolved, we found that there were less of these important memory cells in these MALAT1 spongeless mice. This will allow us and other immunologists to have a better understanding of all the factors and consequences of regulating these important memory cells. But this can also have implications for future clinical trials in humans. One thing that we've learned from the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines is that it's relatively safe and easy to administer RNA, like MALAT1, to our body cells. So then we can imagine introducing more MALAT1 into these memory cells to boost their function. This could lead to better development of vaccines and cancer therapies. So being able to manipulate MALAT1 may just be a way for our immune system to hold onto those grudges a little while longer. Thanks to everyone who made this work possible, and thank you for listening.
Trivia question number 8. So the question is, Dr. Jill Biden, current First Lady of the United States, has visited UCSF's Mission Bay campus twice in connection with an initiative called what? Yes, Cancer Moonshot. So this initiative was launched by the Obama administration in 2016 with $1 billion in funding. The National Cancer Moonshot aims to develop new approaches that fast forward the development of novel therapies for cancer. In February 2016, Jill Biden and then Vice President Joe Biden met with UCSF leaders and cancer experts in the Genentech atrium and visited UCSF's cancer research labs as part of a nationwide listening tour to better understand how the federal government could support advances in cancer research. Did anyone meet Jill when she was here? No, I know the chancellor did. Jill Biden herself, one more thing. On October 2022, she visited the UCSF's Picard Precision Cancer Medical Building. Dr. Biden met with cancer leaders to discuss breast cancer research and progress on the cancer moonshot. So again, these are great trivia questions. I'm learning so much about Mission Bay. Judges, are we good? Okay, let's move on to our ninth speaker. Our ninth speaker is Canice Christian. She is a PhD candidate in Global Health Sciences PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Gabrielle Chamy, and the title of her talk is We Have the Power to Stop HIV.
So many of the other talks you've heard today have been from basic or lab scientists who are providing the incredible work of creating new drugs and therapies to advance healthcare. The work that they do is essential and imperative to creating a healthier world, but what happens after these drugs and therapies are proven to work? That's where my research comes in. My research focuses on implementation science, which studies the way in which we can bridge the gap between important scientific discoveries, like the ones you've heard today, and practice in order to get effective medical interventions to those who need it most. One of my research projects focused on HIV prevention among young men and women in Uganda, a high-risk group for contracting HIV. HIV is fully preventable. For someone living with HIV, there are therapies available to suppress the virus in their body so they'll not pass HIV on to others. For someone who's at high risk of contracting HIV, pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, is a medication that can be taken daily to prevent becoming infected if exposed. And for someone who knows they've been exposed to HIV, there are therapies available that can be taken shortly after exposure to prevent becoming infected. Despite this, globally, about 1.5 million people are newly infected with HIV each year. Let me offer you a quick vignette. Consider Grace. She's a 19-year-old woman living in rural Uganda. She's living in a polygamous marriage and has 2 young children. She's afraid of contracting HIV from her husband, but doesn't have the power in her relationship to change her husband's practices. The clinic is about an hour walk from her home, and she's afraid of what people will say when they see her there. She's never heard of PrEP. So, what can we do to get Grace access to PrEP, a medication that gives her the power to prevent becoming infected with HIV if she's exposed? To address this, we designed an intervention to get at-risk young men and women like Grace engaged in care by providing a safe space to learn about health topics. We implemented clubs over 6 months where local peer mentors taught life skills and health education in rural southwestern Uganda. The clubs also provided a space to have fun, to play sports and music. We generated interest in the club by providing the basic materials and training to create products that could be sold in local villages, including sewing reusable menstrual pads and growing mushrooms, which you can see in the photo behind me. The clubs also provided easy access to HIV prevention medications, and by the end of the study, approximately 30% of the eligible women had started taking PrEP. None of the 42 participants were newly infected with HIV during the study period. With the medications now available, we should do everything in our power to prevent those at risk, like Grace, from contracting HIV, and this study is a great start in that direction. Thank you.
One of the things I really love about the talks is all the research. You can feel the humanity, right? So, Canice, your talk really exemplified that. So, beautiful job. Our next and last trivia question, I believe, yes, our last trivia question is, how many trees were used to create the 4 large figure sculpture in the Rudder Center atrium? Yes, 1. Yes. So this sculpture was created by sculptor Stephen Blackenhall. This commission work was installed in the atrium of the William J. Rudder Center in October 2005. Excuse me. The artist carved the 4 standing figures out of a trunk of a single tree. Wow. Each quarter section of the tree is carved into a figure integral with its base. The figures outside and outsized and facing into different directions mediate between human scale and the scale of an 80-foot tall atrium space. They are meant to express its function as a place where different people cross paths. I work in this building. I've been working in it for 6 years. I didn't know all this. I'm sorry, I'm just having a moment with these trivia questions. So the sculpture is just one of numerous public artworks that comprise the J. Michael Bishop Art Collection at Mission Bay. So this is wonderful. The Rudder Center, designed by Mexican architect Ricardo Larago, was designed by architect Ricardo Larago and opened in 2005, houses the Bacar Fitness Center, the Mission Bay Conference Center, and administrative offices. And again, I already told you that we work in this office, so we cannot neglect that the Graduate Division Dean's Office, yes, the Postdoc Office, Office of Career and Professional Development, Student Health and Counseling, and the International Students and Scholars Office is all housed here. So when you all go to the gym, you need to come up to the second and third floor and come visit us. We're here, we want to see you. Yes. And now, judges, we're good? Okay. And now on to our final speaker, Olivia Teeter. Olivia is a PhD candidate in the bioengineering PhD program. Her faculty advisor is Dr. Martin Kampman. The title of her talk is Nipping Neurodevelopmental Disorders in the Bud.
Wow. Thank you all for being here, and thank you other speakers. It's been really great hearing all of you. And I'm really excited to share my work with you, but before getting to the exciting discovery, I want to start with the fundamentals. Synapses. Synapses are the connections between neurons that allow them to communicate. So if you had to guess, who has more synapses, you or your past 2-year-old self, who would you guess? Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, your past 2-year-old self had about 50% more synapses. That is hundreds of trillions more synapses. This loss of synapses during development is a totally normal process. In fact, it's necessary to form specialized neural circuits. So scientists have likened this loss of synapses to pruning flowers in a garden. So you're born with a wild, overgrown garden, but through development, those flowers or those synapses are pruned back to create a walkable path. In neurodevelopmental disorders, though, scientists have seen both too much and too little pruning. So some gardens remain overgrown and others barren. In my work, I want to understand why these gardens are not properly kept. And to do this, I study the brain's gardener, the microglia. Now, when we garden, we know which flowers to prune because we can see them yellowing and we know to snip. But for microglia, I like to think about them in this black and white scene. So it's not so obvious how they know which synapses to prune. And my hypothesis is that in neurodevelopmental disorders, microglia are struggling to find the right synapses. To test this, I use gene editing tools to mutate genes associated with neurodevelopmental disorders in microglia. I grow these microglia with neurons, and I measure how many synapses they prune. And I did this for a lot of genes, and I found a subset of genes changed pruning. And the exciting part is, most of these genes fell in one signaling pathway. In other words, I found a signal that microglia use to find synapses. And I showed that neurodevelopmental disorders can hijack this process. Since finding the signal, I've shown that drugs targeting it can increase and decrease pruning. So in future work, I'm excited to see how these drugs act in the context of neurodevelopmental disorders to hopefully promote proper pruning. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And I think, Olivia, I don't know if you knew that I'm a gliobiologist too, so I love this. I know. Cool. All right, so that brings us to the end. I know, right? Are we sad? I know. So I would like to invite all the finalists to come back to the stage. Yes. Thank you all so much for both educating and entertaining us today. Let's give them a huge round of applause once again. Thank you. You all can return back to your seats. Thank you. So I'm just going to go over a few more instructions around voting. So this is also our audience chance to play judge today, as I mentioned when I first started. You can vote for your favorite talk to win with the People's Choice Awards by going to the URL or QR code that will be displayed on the screen momentarily. Those of you viewing remotely will also see this link right under the video in your browser or in the description area below video on YouTube. You can take a minute to think about it, but please submit your vote soon. Audience voting, so folks in here, that will be open for just 5 minutes. So make sure you all have your ticket to vote. While the judges are whisked away to a top secret location to confer and decide on today's winners, please take a short break and stretch your legs. We have some light refreshments for you to enjoy in the atrium, but please, we want you to return so you can hear who won today. At about 5:25, oh, hold on now. What time should we come back? Okay, so 40, 45? Come at 40, come back at 5:40. We'll all reconvene to announce the winners. And so the folks who are online, you can watch the announcement too. So we're taking a break. The judges can go with Nikkei.
All right. It is time. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? All right. Before. Oh. Gotcha. Thank you. All right. I thought they were giving me this because they know I don't stay tied to a microphone. It's usually my problem. All right. So first of all, I want to say some thanks. Grad Slam is a monster of an event to plan and to execute. And there are a lot of people who are involved in the planning. So I just want to spend a little bit of time just saying thank you. So first of all, there were somewhere around 36 entries. And some group of people had to go through these entries and select the top 10. So let's just take a moment to say thank you to all our screening judges. And then, of course, to the final judges who just did a marvelous job of cutting through and figuring out who the winners were, who we'll announce in a bit. So thank you to our judges. Every year during Grad Slam or Postdoc Slam, we have members of the staff generally who are coaching students and postdocs in how in their presentation skills. So I just want to say thank you to the OCPD team. They're somewhere in here, but say thank you to the OCPD. Thank you. I think they're now called the R team. There's an R team and an A team. So it's the R team that was responsible for this one. So thank you guys. We are able to live stream this, and we are able to have those slides come up and all the technology work because of our ETS team. So thank you to all the guys on our ETS team. I haven't seen the goodie bags because Chase wouldn't let me open his bag. But Campus Life provided those goodie bags. I heard that there's a $20 gift card in there. Somebody should take that away from Chase. But thanks to our colleagues in Campus Life for providing the goodies. And then all the people you see walking around here with papers in their hand and checking you in at the door, and these are all members of the GradDiv SAA staff. So please join me in thanking them. Lots of work went on here. And then he wrote my script, so he didn't put his name in my script. So I'm just gonna bust him out now. Where is Eric? Oh, there he is. Stand up, Eric. This young man. Folks, you have no idea. He came up with all those trivia questions. The man did everything, okay? So whenever you see him as you're walking out today, just tap him on the shoulder and tell him thank you, because the man has spent countless hours. I swear to you, I get here in the morning, he's here. I leave here in the night, he's still here for the last, I don't know how many weeks. So thank you, Eric. All right, I'm about to shut up. So this year, we tried this out. We sort of did this impromptu at Postdoc Slam, and now we're just gonna do it normally. This year, instead of me standing here and announcing the winners, I'm gonna have the judges announce the winners, right? So I'll be up here and I'll be drum rolling, but they will get the joy of presenting the gift. All right. So for who is doing People's Choice? Carla. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the People's Choice Award, this is the award that you voted for, as well as those who are listening on live stream, will be announced shortly. And the People's Choice... Go right ahead.
I just want to say this is my first Grad Slam, and I'm very impressed with all the presentations. So great job, everyone. At the same time. And the People's Choice winner is Deepa Rajan.
All right, Deepa, you will get $750 in some account somewhere for that at some point. Somebody will contact you and you will get, money will miraculously show up in your bank. All right, the third prize winner for a Grad Slam receives a $1,000 award. And for the third prize winner, I think the good Dr. Lowenstein. And the winner is?
Well, actually, I just want to say, as the good Dr. Lowenstein, I happen to be a physician scientist, and listening to all these talks is so inspiring because of the way your work is going to translate into lessening the suffering of the people who come to seek help here at UCSF. So I am as hopeful as I've ever been in listening to the work that you're doing. So thank you. And the third prize winner is Olivia Teeter.
All right. The second prize winner gets, as Deanne says, half a rent. $2,000, and we are going to ask Flory to announce.
Thank you. This is also my first Grad Slam since I graduated, and I'm just so honored to be part of this amazing community with such brilliant people. So, the second prize winner is Jason Davidson.
Excellent. Money will show up in your account too. And if it doesn't, just talk to Deanne. Ladies and gentlemen, the grand prize winner, so grand that we need 2 judges to announce. And the grand prize is for $4,000.
While my lovely assistant comes over to the center of the stage. This was such a fun event to participate in. You were all so impressive. You were all so much more poised than I was as a graduate student. I was just blown away. Okay, so our first place winner today is Deepa Rajan.
All right, now that is your check. That is your check, my friend. You are more than we invite you and your group of cheerleaders to come up after I'm done to come take pictures with the check, but that is yours. We don't want it back. Okay. Really, congratulations to all of you. In our books, every single one of our participants today is a winner. You're all amazing. You did an amazing job. And yes, Jason, we will call you out a little because I don't know that too many of us would have kept talking through a fire alarm. So good job out there. This really concludes the end of the Grad Slam. Thank you all for your support. Thank you, students, for your hard work and your dedication to your work here at UCSF. Have a great evening.